We are posted up on the floor again. We're trying to go retro, right? So, back in my day, we didn't have chairs to sit on. We sat on the floor. The analog trend, people wanting to go back to primitive tech. I might be a little bit late on this because I'm pretty sure it started like at the beginning of this year where everyone was trying to make New Year's resolutions of being like, we're going retro, we're getting rid of the smartphones, we're going back to dumb phones and flip phones and all this other type of stuff. Didn't last long, not surprising, but that's not really going to be the main focus, like the analog trend itself. It's really what the trend says about humanity as of right now, where we're at, and how depressive it is seeing all of these people hating these technologies and wanting to stop using them or stop being addicted to them, but it just being very difficult to do so. But just in case you're not familiar with it, the analog trend, again, I think it started like at the beginning of this year. People were trying to get back into older hobbies, like just staying offline more, doing more drawing, going outside, reading books, stuff like that. I mean, hobbies that are still generally still very popular, but there's just an emphasis on trying not to use as much technology, not using social media, not really using your phone, even regressing back to a dumb phone, which is going to be a really big aspect of this video that I'm going to talk about. It seems to be people kind of glamorizing the 90s to about the early 2000s before all these technological systems that we have really popped off and became what it is today. But I think it's very sad to see an entire generation recognize that they actually have a problem, but it once again just being so difficult to get rid of or to change it or to get out of it. And there's many reasons as to why that is, but specifically the dumb phone had seemed to be a really popular solution to this issue. We all just need to go back and regress. Sure, it seems like an easy and great idea, right? Like the smartphone is what's harming all of us, so just don't use the smartphone anymore. Sure, I get that, but there's a lot of problems with it. Not only does it make the act kind of performative, which I hate using that word because it's so overly used now, but in a sense, it does end up becoming performative, which is kind of what you see with a lot of these people claiming that they're going back and they're using a dumb phone, but they're still posting about it on TikTok. It's like they're more glamorizing the hobbies rather than making it a genuine lifestyle that changes the way that they actually utilize technology. It's just more like a cute little quirky trend, like LOL, retro, so cute. It's kind of similar to the underconsumption core trend, which also did not last very long, surprise, surprise, of people glamorizing a lifestyle of living more simply, of not needing to buy so much stuff, of using things until they wear out and break down, which again is what most normal people do, especially if you can't afford to buy new things. But it ended up becoming a trend, and then everyone got bored of it, and then it died, and then everyone went back to buying too much. So in the cultural sense, that's a reason why it's just not going to work very well. But something else that I want to point out is that it goes against the fundamental aspects of human evolution, which is and has always been technological advancement. I remember we were talking about this in biology last semester, and seeing how quickly our population grew from like a few million to a couple 100 million to then the billions to now 8+ billion people. And that boom, that rapid growth in our population would not have been possible without the technological advancements that we made. And that goes for all types of tech. That goes for communication, like the telephone, the smartphone, transportation with boats and then trains and now cars. Or this could be something like medicine, which could technically be considered a technological advancement. Our agricultural abilities, the way that we produce food, all these things have had a huge impact on our population growth. The way that humans evolve is a little bit different from the way other animals evolve, because humans heavily rely on our brains in order to evolve and grow as a species. The ultimate goal is and has always been trying to make things easier, more efficient. The very way our brain works is so that everything can be efficient, looking for patterns, schemas, heuristics, all these psychological concepts that you end up learning in psychology. All of these things are meant to make our lives efficient. But the problem that we're seeing is that it seems like the tech that we are creating is advancing way faster than our biology and psychological processes can keep up with. That's why in this day and age, getting a like on a post or a compliment in real life from a real human being can kind of give the same reaction. Or maybe getting chased by a bear in real life versus getting a hate comment online can trigger the same psychological system. We're reaching the point where people are asking, maybe we're going too far then, maybe we're moving too fast, maybe we're doing too much. And while I'm not saying that I don't necessarily agree with this statement, nor am I disagreeing with the fact that I feel like we might have gone too far, but it all kind of comes down to a more philosophical question. If we stop with these advancements, if we stunt this growth, if we halt ourselves from making more technology to make our lives easier, which is the very thing that we have been utilizing to evolve at the rate that we have, what does that technically say about our humanity? In other words, are we even human anymore?
So what's your take?
Smartphones are evil, they're ruining society, and we need to just stop.
100% disagree.
Well, you would. Because
No,
this
I
is
wouldn't.
your whole
No,
thing,
no,
right?
no, no.
It's ruining everything, and nothing's like physical anymore. Do you see the new subway map? The old thing. Look, it had everything. It had everything. It had all the cross streets. You could see where you were going. You could get off of here and you would know you would walk 1 block and it would be here. This is like an abstract art piece. Look, Central Park is wider than it is long. Everybody's got the maps on their phone, so they don't need it.
No, I 100% agree. I do think that phones are in society.
But that's the thing, is everyone's a junkie.
I'm a
Everyone's
junkie.
shooting up right now as we speak.
I know.
Everyone is on their way to work shooting up. I have a flip phone, so I can't get a ticket to a Mets game. I can't get a menu at a restaurant. It's awful.
What do you mean it's awful? This is the life you wanted.
No, this is great. This cured my depression.
Really?
Here, I got you one.
This is for me?
Yeah, that's for you.
Is it actually for me?
Yeah, you can have that.
So this is a channel of a guy who goes on the New York subway and just asks people random questions to give them their hot take or whatever. And I seen this one. This is a very recent video that he ended up posting. And while I don't completely disagree with this man's statement, and I don't think he's wrong, I do have my qualms with what he said and the way he said it specifically. First of all, to be fair, he didn't say anything particularly profound. I mean, there are several people, if not like almost everybody, making this claim. And again, he's right. I don't disagree with him. There's too much data that we have to support that smartphones are actively harming us in several different ways. And not just the smartphone itself, but the apps on the smartphone and all the other type of stuff. But going back to evolutionary theory, like I was just talking about, he mentioned how nobody uses physical maps anymore, which is true because now we have our phones that have maps on them, so we don't need a physical map. But that's exactly the point. We don't need physical maps because we have our phones. I'm not saying that there can't be some detriment, but it's just the fact that we have our phones now that is meant to make things more efficient, so therefore we do not need paper maps. And if you zoom out a little bit, you can apply this same type of logic to so many other technological advancements that we've made. For another example, reading time on a clock. There's probably a bunch of kids nowadays that don't know how to read an analog clock, probably because they're not taught, or if they are taught, they just don't use the skill enough because we don't really use or read regular clocks anymore. Do I still think kids should learn how to tell time? Yes, absolutely. But do they need to learn how to tell time if we use digital clocks now? For any of us older folks who know how to read a clock, even if you're in a room with a clock on the wall and your Apple Watch on your wrist, and you need to tell the time, you're gonna turn to your watch before you turn to the clock on the wall. At least the majority of us is. Unless you have deliberately trained yourself or made it a rule for yourself that you need to look at the clock every time you need to tell time, it's instinctive that we're just going to look at our wrist or pull out our phones. Why would we need to read the time on an analog clock if we have a digital clock to tell us the time? We've created these systems with the sole purpose of making our job easier. And if you're still kind of wary of that idea, let's go back even further. Analog clocks was a technological advancement for being able to read the time by like looking at the sun and measuring with your hand, or whatever other type of primitive ways that we had of telling time. I mean, there were several ancient civilizations that had a mechanism for being able to do that, but compared to now, it was pretty complicated. To be fair, a lot of us don't know how to read a sundial. A lot of us don't know how to read those ancient clocks that they used, because we ended up inventing the analog clock so that we could calculate time a little bit easier. And if we're being completely transparent here and removing the pride of, well, back in my day we had to do this type of mentality, it's not really a skill that we need. That is, unless the apocalypse does end up happening. In which case, if it does happen, I'd probably like the first to die, so I wouldn't even need that skill anyway. Not even because of anything related to the apocalypse. I'd probably just die falling down the stairs or something like that. But the point I'm trying to get at is these advancements are the reason why we are here today, in this place where we are. It is fundamentally what makes us human, creating things to make our lives easier. And for the most part, it is very uniquely human. Sure, there are other animals that build things to assist them, but not at the level that we as humans can create stuff. Everything that we've been making for the past several centuries was with the one sole purpose of making our lives easier, of making things more efficient. So it's difficult for a lot of people to fathom going back to old tech, because that's just not how we operate. So going back to the video of the guy on the subway and his take, he's shown that he's going old school. He's using a dumb phone and he's using a paper map and he's trying to get away from all those digital devices. Okay, let's just go ahead and entertain that idea and say that we all try to do what he does, try to live the way that he lives. Thinking about how that would affect several different parts of our life. First of all, we'd all have to go back to physical banks. We'd have to take all of our money out of any digital accounts that we have. Platforms like Chime, Cash App, Vero, all those other things would be rendered useless because we wouldn't be able to use digital money anymore. That is assuming, of course, that we're not going to open up our laptop every time we want to send money or do something. So many people would have to completely switch where they keep their money. Some people might just pull it out and have it physically. Or what about transportation? We would all have to resort to public transportation like taxis or buses or trains. That is if you don't have a car or a way to get around, because things like Uber and Lyft would no longer be accessible. And that's easy for somebody who lives in New York, but if you live in the South, transportation down here sucks, even in the city. And if you're not in the city, if you're over there in the back rooms of the woods, forget it, just good luck. We would really have to go back and get primitive by using wagons and horses. I'm not pulling up to school on an actual Mustang, that's not happening. And speaking of school, I need my smartphone in order to do school. I need to authenticate myself so I can log into my platforms. Not to mention all the safety features that do come with using a smartphone as well. Being able to record certain situations if you're in danger, being able to call someone and get help quickly if you need it. In my opinion, it's just not realistic. You can't just expect people, after years of progress and years of evolution, primarily thanks to a lot of the tech that we've created, to just stop all that and stunt our growth. Again, I get his argument, I understand, and I'm not in disagreement. Smartphones do cause damage, but the proposal is just to stay at a certain point of technological advancement and then stop there, just cut it off. After growing with technological advancement is kind of what we've been doing this whole time for centuries, because if that is the case, there are exceptions that we have to make. If we wanted to bring this further, there are so many other technological advancements that we've made that cause harm that we probably should get rid of too. Cars is a good example of that. Cars kill a lot of people. You don't see it on the news, you don't see enough people talking about it because of how common they are, but they kill a lot of people. Sure, you get the upside of being able to get to places faster, but then you get the downside of possibly being in an accident or being on the other side of the accident, not to mention the number that is doing to our environment. Yet you don't really hear anybody advocating for the death of cars. Let's get rid of cars, it's ruining us. Because we understand the detriment and the inconvenience that would cause if we really advocated for something like that. Nobody's about to sell their car to go back to riding a horse, or walking to school, or riding a bike, or using public transport, which again may not be accessible depending on where you are. There's so many tech advancements that we made that do cause harm. And I'm not saying this to play like the what about. I'm not trying to play the whataboutism game. What I'm trying to put in perspective here is that it's trying to simplify a very complex problem. With the guy on the subway and with so many other YouTubers and what so many people trying this whole analog trend is misunderstanding. When they talk about phones are going to destroy us, phones are the death of us, phones are bad and you shouldn't use them anymore, and hearing that same song and dance over and over again, is that you're essentially asking us to devolve, which is a very big ask and a hard thing to do. We all have the hindsight now to realize that smartphones are harming us, sure, so it's easy to say that now, but nobody was thinking that when the first smartphone was created years ago. Everyone was excited. We thought it would help a lot, and it did. It created a way for us to connect to families and friends and other people all around the world. It gave people the opportunity to create a business, to be able to make a living off of this little tiny box in our pockets. It allowed for the appreciation and the crossover of so many different cultures all around the world, which would have been really difficult to recognize otherwise. So yes, it's done a lot of good things, but there is no advancement without drawbacks. Every single technological advancement that we've ever created always had a downside. So it makes it kind of difficult to make exceptions and pick and choose which ones we want to get rid of and which ones we want to conveniently ignore. It's an inevitable trend that regardless of what we make, there is going to be some harm that comes from it, as well as the benefits. It's kind of a whole package deal, and it's kind of hard to break free from that. The idea that we've gone too far only now, I feel like we've already gone too far centuries ago. Going back to what I was talking about in the very beginning of this video, when talking about our tech advancements moving a lot faster than our psychology can, going back to the whole philosophical paradox here, if it is in our nature as humanity to grow our population with these advancements, we've already messed ourselves up because we can't stop now. I mean, technically we could, but again, that would be stunting our growth. And the whole point of a species is to be able to continue. We've already gone too far when we made the very first telephone, the very first mode of communication. We were never supposed to be able to interact with that many people, yet here we are. When we made trains to transport materials and people, we were never made to be able to outreach to so many different places so far away from us. Yet here we are. Heck, we probably went too far the day that we discovered and harnessed the power of fire and used it for our benefit. And probably even way before that. Nothing that we do as humanity was technically supposed to be a thing. Everything that we do is already breaking the boundaries of what's natural, of what's normal. We've already eaten the fruit from the forbidden tree, okay? We are the mismatch. So just the idea of getting rid of our smartphones is not going to help. And the reason why I think that's important to recognize is because it can create this superiority complex amongst other people that successfully switch to their little dumb phone lifestyle. Look at all these other people on the subway using their little drug. These pitiful creatures are addicted to these smartphones. Not me though. I use paper maps in my dumb phone. I've freed myself from the matrix. And look, I get that this guy was interviewed, right? Somebody came up to him and asked him for his opinion, so he's entitled to that opinion. I'm not trying to be rude. I respect and understand his opinions and what he's getting at with what he's saying. I get it. But people need to understand that it's a very shallow way to do damage control on something that has been in the work for decades, for centuries, for several years. It completely ignores the existentialist part of humanity, because regardless of how much we plead and cry and talk about how all these things have the possibility to destroy us, humanity won't stop innovating. And if you can't keep up, it's just going to move on without you. That is the essence of evolution. And to be completely clear, this is not me saying that I think he should stop using his dumb phone and going back retro like he did. I'm happy for him. If he found a system that genuinely works and he put in the effort to be able to distance himself from a smartphone, all respect to him. That is incredibly impressive, and I'm happy that he was able to break free from this addiction. But not everybody can do it like that. And that's understandable, because it's a very big ask for people to intentionally evolve backwards. That's not a natural thing to do. The reason why I'm frustrated and talking about this the way that I am, because I know people are going to misunderstand my intention and are probably thinking that I am like completely trying to dismiss all the bad things that tech has made. What's the most frustrating about this whole idea of people trying to simplify this very, very complex issue and just being like, we need to just go back to dumb phones, or we need to get rid of the smartphone, or the smartphone is bad, is that when other people catch wind of this whole trend and they adopt this mindset, when they try and when they fail, they feel bad about it. You have all of these naive teenagers seeing this trend going around and trying to force themselves to de-evolve and use simpler tech, going back to old phones and cameras and hobbies, and they're not doing it right because they're just executing it as if it was a trend and not a genuine lifestyle. You have all these people online making fun of these kids and making fun of them for not understanding how this works and not doing it right. Of course they're not doing it right. Everything we've done previously to get to where we are today goes against this. It is not natural to ask us to go backwards. So of course they're gonna fail. Of course it's gonna be hard. Of course you're not gonna be able to just drop everything in your phone and just be like, oh, I freed myself from the matrix. I just want people who've tried this and failed to understand that it's okay. It's not your fault. The whole purpose of tech evolution and advancements is to make our lives easier. Intentionally trying to make your life harder is not a natural thing to do. I'm not saying it's not a good thing to do, because I think it is. I do it in certain aspects of my life, purposefully making things more difficult, but it's not natural. That's not normal. So it can take quite a bit of effort. It can take quite a bit of time. You can't just drop your smartphone and be like, all right, peace out, I'm gonna go live in the woods for the rest of my life. Like, sure, maybe some people can, like some outliers, sure, some few oddballs, but it's not natural for most of us. And when people try to make these the solutions to this very complex issue, it puts a lot of pressure on individuals, and then once again creates a superiority complex with people who have achieved this lifestyle. And it's like, look at me, I'm better than you guys because I could get rid of my phone. The only way to make real genuine change when it comes to a culture and a society is needing to observe something that already works and modifying it to make it a little bit better, to make sure it has a better application so that people can adopt this method and utilize it and then carry it on through next generations. It's called the ratchet effect. And a movement like this would need enough influence, enough cultural agreement in understanding how to actually properly execute it in order for it to work well, which this analog trend clearly does not have. The fact that it's a trend at all in the first place was the first mistake. It's not going to work if you view it as a trend, because trends are not meant to stay for long. And again, I'm not trying to discourage people from trying this. If you genuinely want to try the whole dumb phone thing, again, more power to you. Try it. I think it's a really good way to test your self-control and your discipline. But again, I just don't want people to get their hopes up and then be disappointed in themselves when they realize they can't do it, because it's a big ask. I personally think that the solution does not lie in the complete eradication of something as powerful and useful as our phones. I just don't think that's realistic. At least work on a more massive scale, because the dumb phone can work, but I think it would be very, very individualistic. It would depend on your own lifestyle and the responsibilities that you have. So I don't think it's just a complete eradication of smartphones, but the answer lies more so in the regulation of it. We have to remember that we're an intelligent species not only because that we create the things that we can create. By intelligent, that's like subjective, of course, but you get what I'm trying to say. But it's also in our ability to regulate ourselves and our impulses in ways that not many other species can. And we need regulation not only at the individualistic level, but the systemic level as well. All of these billionaires who know exactly what they're doing when they make the smartphones the way that they make them, when they make these apps the way that they make them. They know what they're doing to make it addicting. It is a very serious ethical and moral dilemma. So that's something else that I'm not too big a fan on when it comes to this whole analog, everyone just move to dumb phones trend, because it puts a lot of the pressure and responsibility on the individual, which accountability is important. Don't get me wrong. I am not one to sit here and say that nothing is never anyone's fault. You can make decisions and choices that affect your outcome, but these big old companies at the top need to be held accountable as well, which we are slowly starting to see some reforms be made. Like, for anyone who does not know, there was a case in California that had just been ruled of a woman suing social media companies for being addictive, which opens the doors for a lot of other people who suffered in the same way as a result of social media platforms and the smartphone. So that is a start, and I think we're definitely moving in the right direction when we're holding these big companies accountable. But in the meantime, as an individual, I suggest small changes rather than just dramatically removing a big part of your life. Try to just distance yourself away from certain apps or try to use them less. The goal is to lessen our dependency on them, just like any other addiction. You could quit cold turkey, which is insane to say about a smartphone, or you could take baby steps. We need to condition ourselves to use less, to need less. So that way you do have all of the benefits of the smartphone and the way that it has helped our lives. But you can also regulate all the downsides of it. And of course, it's not going to be a perfect system because nothing is, but it's a start. It's at least somewhere where we can get, because we've already unleashed the beast. It's here. So we need to start somewhere that's a little bit more doable and a little bit more realistic. So if you failed at this little analog trend and you couldn't do it, that's okay. Don't be hard on yourself. Try taking things one step at a time. Even if it takes you a whole month to get your screen time from like 10 hours to 9 hours. Progress is progress. And the best way to combat this curse of evolution that we've put on ourselves is to also use our other psychological systems to help regulate how much we're using these things. But I would like to argue that it's a little bit more realistic than just throwing your smartphone into the ocean and trying to go back to the good old unga bunga days, you know? But again, if that's what you want to do, good luck. Anyways, that's all I had to talk about today. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.